All right, as you can see, I'm joined now live by Dan Manarino, who just moderated the debate. Excellent job, Dan. They gave you some fireworks right off the bat, and Mr. Boris was in the center of it all evening.
Yeah, I mean, it was very clear from the moment the debate began that they were going to go after the two frontrunners, right? So Jack Schlossberg, who kind of slipped into third place in our Emerson College poll, immediately went after Micah Lasher and Alex Boris, and that is kind of how this kind of went the whole night. And they even addressed it. Mr. Conway kind of even alluded to it at the end, calling it a triangle debate when he was kind of on the outskirts. But the AI issue is a big one because AI is here. I mean, we've heard about it from the residents who live in New York 12 that it's a big issue. It is something that Alex Boris has run on, so I'm not surprised that kind of right off the bat that is what they went.
And if you own a television or even a device in New York City right now, you see the ads both for and against Mr. Boris, which is coloring this. Let's widen our panel just a little bit now. We're going to bring in a fellow reporter here at PIX11, Emily Rahal, and then editor-in-chief of City and State, Jeff Colton. Emily, beginning with you, please, your thoughts on this debate.
I thought it was interesting. I thought they definitely had a little bit of spice going on, but there was kind of respect in the room for when Dan was saying stop, which was also kind of what I expected. I think you heard some of the usual, like what we might have expected for the arguments between them, but I thought Jack Schlossberg was kind of as fiery as I might have hoped he would be. He definitely came out a little bit hot and ready to throw insults and whatnot. And I think the back and forth on Palantir was as interesting as we might have expected or hoped, and there was a lot to kind of bite into there.
I think Jack did what a third place person running in a debate that is in a race that's weeks away from voting. He was going after the front runners, trying to make his case to kind of get him back to where he was because everyone thought he was the front runner weeks ago.
But Jeff, that being said, in the only polling, which we did here at PIX11, Micah Lasher in theory is the front runner. So is there not a risk here that they're anointing Mr. Boris as the front runner?
Definitely. I mean, the Boris strategy for his opponents has always been twisted because Boris's entire profile has been elevated by all this negative spending against him. He came into this race as, you know, an assembly member, but like a relative unknown. Only served a term and a half at that point. And now his name is everywhere. It's in my inbox. It's in my mailbox 3 times a day. It's crazy. It's all of this AI spending against him, and now all of this AI spending for him. So I think Alex Boris has been elevated by that. Micah Lasher also has a lot of spending on his behalf. And Schlossberg, you know, he started with some name recognition as a Kennedy, and he's kind of just stayed there.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, all of you guys. We're going to be rocking and rolling all through this post-show, chatting with you, chatting with some of the candidates as they come back to do their own spin right here on PIX11. But let's continue on with the post-show after just a very quick break. Welcome back to the PIX11 New York 12 post-debate show. We are going to start bringing in some of the candidates to do their own spin and chat about the debate. We're going to begin with Assemblyman Alex Boris, who no doubt was in the center of all of the action this evening. Assemblyman, thanks for taking an extra couple of minutes with us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So let's talk about this, because right off the bat, we kind of talked about something that's been central to your campaign, AI, and you were getting it from quite literally both directions. Mr. Schlossberg, Mr. Lasher came after you. Is there anything you want to clarify or point out from the debate?
I think they were coming from the same direction as the Trump mega donors that have been opposing this campaign from the start, because they said they want to make an example out of me, and it looks like my opponents want to gang up on that effort. It's clear they want to spend $10 million against me to steal the seat from New York 12 voters, and also to send a message to every other member of Congress that you're not allowed to regulate AI. They're scared of me not because what I've done, but what I will do. It's unclear to me why that scares my opponents as well.
But they went after you for saying there's PACs from crypto billionaires supporting you, and then there's also other PACs, you know, from the tech industry that are supporting. I mean, if you I was just talking to Dan in the panel here. I don't know if you heard it. If you have a device in New York City, you're seeing your face with all sorts of stuff being said about you.
Yeah, often darkened with scary music.
Same thing happened on the debate stage tonight, where all sorts of things are being said about you.
I hope you didn't darken my face.
No, we did not. Of course not. But what are voters supposed to make of you, sir? Because, I mean, you see the debate tonight. You see what's going on TV. What are you telling voters?
My record is clear, that I've been delivering for New Yorkers as a lifelong progressive, that I was raised on picket lines, that I've fought for workers before I was ever in the Assembly, that I've delivered 32 bills that have expanded health care, that have brought down costs, that I'm the person that actually delivers in Congress, that it's not time for a student, it's not time for someone who's writing plans, it's time for someone that's actually beaten Donald Trump, and that's what I've delivered.
There was maybe a more poignant moment when you were asked about your time at Palantir, and quitting in protest is your version of that story. And I don't even mean to call it a story, but that's what Mr. Schlossberg came after you for. Is there anything you want to clarify there? He wanted you to release some sort of HR record. You said there was nothing to release.
There's no truth to anything that he said or that the Trump mega donor said. All it reaffirms is that Palantir is opposing me, and OpenAI is opposing me, and Andreessen Horowitz and the people funding Donald Trump are opposing me. I'm almost as proud of that anti-endorsement as I am of being endorsed by the people of New York City, by the teachers union, by the firefighters, by the AFL-CIO, all the unions of the state supporting me, along with every LGBTQ group that has endorsed in this race. I'm happy to have my opponents join that super PAC in calling all of those New Yorkers liars.
Mr. Boris, thanks for taking a couple of extra minutes with us. We appreciate you stopping by the Post Show.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll be right back with more analysis and more interviews with candidates on the other side of a very quick break. And welcome back to the PIX11 NY-12 post-debate show. I am Henry Rosoff, senior political correspondent here at PIX11. We are now joined by Assemblyman Micah Lasher, who was also in the middle of it tonight, one of four gentlemen on the stage. Assemblyman, thanks for taking a couple of extra minutes with us.
Great to be with you, Henry.
So let's start this in a sort of open-ended place, because you were in the middle of a number of exchanges and back and forths. Is there anything you want to clarify or assert now that you have an open stage?
No, it was a vibrant conversation. Voters of this district deserve that. I wish we'd been able to spend more time talking about my plans to really fight back against Trump using the tools, the power that's available to Congress, to hold House oversight hearings, to rebuild our laws. But maybe we'll get to that in the next debate.
Well, you and Mr. Schlossberg really took issue with the money that is supporting and opposing Mr. Boris. Why is that such a concern for you? And more importantly, why do you think it should be a concern for voters?
Well, I think Alex likes only to tell half the story, which is that he angered one tech company and they're going after him, and that's bad. But he doesn't want to talk about the part of the story in which he voted time and again against AI regulation bills with Republicans, with the industry, and how Anthropic is spending millions of dollars to elect him, how a crypto billionaire is spending millions of dollars to elect him, how he has an A+ rating from the crypto lobby at standwithcrypto.com. He's not taking on the tech industry. He's in the middle of a proxy fight with the tech industry. I just don't think that any of our tech oligarchs should be writing our AI policy, whether it's the most evil company or the slightly less evil company.
You were also accused in this debate and said that there was no merit to it of influencing stop and frisk policy in the Bloomberg administration. Is there anything you'd like to add to that conversation?
It was an entirely meritless attack. I was Director of State Legislative Affairs for the Bloomberg administration. There were 1,000 memos that I put out on behalf of 100 city agencies. And if Jack or Alex wants to cherry pick those memos, that's their business. I think, though, that there's a bigger difference, which is that I've been choosing public service for nearly 2 decades as an aide to Congressman Nadler, as Director of State Legislative Affairs for the City of New York under Mayor Bloomberg, Chief of Staff in the State Attorney General's office, Policy Director for the Governor. Those are the choices that I've made. We didn't get it right every day, but I was working every day to improve the life of New Yorkers. And I think Jack obviously made a different set of choices. Alex looked around at the landscape when he got out of graduate school and went to work at Palantir. So he chose Palantir. I chose public service. I'm happy to have that debate.
You mentioned we didn't get too much of your plans to take on President Trump. What's something we missed you want voters to know about yourself?
Well, I've outlined a detailed plan for how Congress can go shore up the laws that Trump has exploited, like the War Powers Resolution that he's used to launch the war in Iran, other military misadventures, the Impoundment Control Act, which he's used to subvert the will of Congress when it comes to the release of funds, the Alien Enemies Act. All of these laws have been part of Trumpism. We need to change them. I'm the one candidate who's thought deeply about how we do that, and I've got the legislative record in the Assembly to show that I can get results.
Assemblyman Lasher, thank you for participating in our debate and for joining us for a few minutes afterward. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you.
And coming up next after the break, we're bringing in yet another candidate, Jack Schlossberg, who kicked off sort of many of the attacks on Alex Boris and Micah Lasher, for that matter, during this debate. He's going to join us right here. Stick around.
But the record of the people on this stage is not so clear. I want to point out, Alex Boris worked at Palantir in the first Trump administration from 2017 to 2019, okay, while they were contracting with ICE to separate families here. And he'll say, I quit ICE. I quit Palantir to protest their ICE. Well, The billionaire who's funding your campaign is also backing candidates right now who say that they want to give all ICE agents the Medal of Freedom.
I appreciate Jack for bringing this up because it is the disinformation that Trump mega donors are sending into NY-12. So thank you for the chance to clarify. As he knows, I quit Palantir because of the work with ICE. That was when I was a private citizen. I put my morals over my career. This is not something I've come to lately. It's something I've fought for my whole life. I am proud of our history of welcoming immigrants, and I would be the strongest fighter in restoring that basic American value in Congress.
So no commercial break, my mistake. We're just going to play a little bit of clips pertaining to our next candidate we're chatting with. That would be Jack Schlossberg, who joins me now live in the PIX11 studio. Mr. Schlossberg, thanks for taking a few extra minutes with us.
Thank you. So happy to be here. Great debate.
So just like I offered many of the other candidates, I mean, there was a lot of back and forth, and you were in the middle of much of it. Is there anything you want to point out or clarify from the debate to kick off our conversation?
I think it's a fantastic thing that we have such a competitive primary here in NY-12. It's exactly what the Democratic Party needs. I'm really proud of the campaign we're running, which is powered by small dollars and real plans like deducting your rent from your taxes. That's my plan. I want to make Trump pay for the perimeter costs around Trump Tower and get $300 million for cops, teachers, and transit. I want to make HIV medication free at the point of care. There are so many plans that we've gotten, that we've released during this primary. I wish I'd gotten to talk a little bit about more about those, but I'm very, very happy with how the debate went because I think, if you ask me, I'm the only real Democrat on the stage. Everyone else either has been a Republican or is currently backed by a Republican billionaire. And the influence of money on our politics is something I take very, very seriously.
But that doesn't always translate to voters. I mean, I think a lot of people see the ads around town. If you have a tablet or a phone or a TV, you know, if you're watching our TV right now, I mean, I think you see particularly the attack and pro ads for Mr. Boris. Why does that money in politics, in particular in your race, bother you so much? And more importantly, what do you think voters are making of all of this?
On the first day of the campaign, I made a pledge. No super PAC, no corporate PAC, no money from special interests or big tech and AI. What I didn't know then was that my opponents would take millions upon millions of dollars from people who are not even Democrats themselves. Why do I think this is so important? I think voters do care about this a lot. I think the rules of campaign finance are so convoluted and confusing that it allows candidates like Mr. Boris and Mr. Lasher to have plausible deniability, that they don't know what's going on. The fact is, Alex Morez would not be on this stage if not for the tens of millions of dollars given to him by Anthropic, one, and two, Chris Larson. Alex claims that he is somehow the enemy of Trump's megadonors. He's gotten $4 million from a guy who gave Trump the second highest donor to Trump's inauguration and who is currently backing Republican candidates trying to defeat Democrats around the country, people who think that we should give all of ICE agents the Medal of Freedom. And just because there's a layer and a shell company and all these convoluted rules, I'm here to say that's not how it should be. You can trust me that I'm not going to be to sell out to anybody. And when I speak, you can trust the words that are coming out of my mouth. People have lost trust in our political system. People have lost trust in the Democratic Party. And no wonder we're seen as out of touch if all we're doing is sticking our hand out to ultra wealthy billionaires and running campaign ads about how we're going to take them on. It doesn't make any sense. And I think the people of New York especially are smart enough to see the difference.
Respectfully, sir, you come from a storied family with no small amount of wealth. Do you think voters will draw a distinction between this money that's feeding into PACs and your own personal wealth that's allowed you to, in part, reach part of the position you're in today?
Look, my family's legacy is a public service, and I'm very, very proud of that. I take it very seriously. And yes, members of my family died way too young, and I inherited wealth from them. But there's a real difference between taking money from millions and millions of dollars from a company or another person who has a political agenda. This is just how the world works. People don't just give millions of dollars and expect nothing in return. This is about corruption and quid pro quo and who you're going to answer to once you get elected. I think that people of NY-12 don't know, and now because of this debate, maybe they're becoming aware of the backroom deals and the shadowy figure billionaires who are propping up these candidates, and they don't have to worry about that with me. You know, I was born into the place that I was born in, the same as anybody else, and there's a lot of privileges that come with that. But one thing I'm not willing to do is sell out my hometown to a Republican.
Mr. Schlossberg, thank you for taking a few extra minutes with us on this PIX11 debate post-show. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
When we come back, we're going to button this up with more of our panel. Please do stick around for the PIX11 NY-12 debate post-show. And welcome back to the PIX11 post-debate show. You've just been watching an interview with a number of the candidates that were on our New York District 12 debate stage in this Democratic primary. Let's go ahead and bring back in our panel from the beginning of the show. That's Emily Rahal, a political reporter here at PIX11, and Jeff Colton, editor-in-chief at City and State. Thank you both for rejoining us. Sure thing. Emily, I understand we've been running a very informal poll at the PIX11 page right now about who won the debate. What can you tell us about the poll?
Yeah, we're running, we've opened it about 10 minutes before the debate ended, so viewers are kind of weighing in. And right now we have Micah Lasher in the lead. 60% of people who have answered the poll say that he won the debate, and then followed by Jack Schlossberg, who's been kind of sharing that top spot. And then Alex Borres and then George Conway has been kind of riding out the bottom of that poll. And that's still open, so people watching now can go and vote on the poll.
And just to underscore, this is not on par with the scientific polling we did with Emerson College, which showed Micah Lasher just slightly ahead of Alex Borres and so on. Jeff, something we haven't covered yet was an interesting conversation about taxing billionaires and millionaires, to be frank. What did you take away from that conversation during the debate?
Yeah, you know, it's very relevant to this district, being one of the wealthiest districts in the entire country, probably more billionaires here than maybe anywhere outside of Silicon Valley. And so, you know, the candidates have to tread a little more lightly here than maybe in other districts. And yet, most of them were saying, you know, I do want to tax capital gains. I want to...
With the exception of Mr. Schlossberg, who said he did not want to tax capital gains.
Which is interesting because we know that all of his income is from capital gains. So it's a little bit relevant there. You know, he just spoke about that with you before this, talking about his own personal wealth, which he said he inherited. But it's an interesting discussion there. And, you know, it's tax the rich is a winning platform for Zohran Mamdani, we just saw, who very narrowly won this district in the mayor's race. It's a winning platform for other congressional candidates. In this one, it's a little more nuanced. You know, the fact that we're even talking about capital gains tax rather than just a broad tax the rich slogan, I think is relevant here. And, you know, both Lasher and Borres do actually have records here of what bills they have supported. I believe both of them, I'm pretty sure both of them did not initially support the tax the rich bills, but then once they started running for Congress, decided to sign on.
Well, I mean, there was discussion between those two assemblymen of perhaps a higher or progressive tax on cap gains similar to income tax, whereas Mr. Conway went after the issue of not being able to borrow without incurring a tax against capital gains, which is absolutely a real issue. I mean, it was, for as much as Mr. Conway talked about Trump, he did bring a very real salient issue. I mean, if you limit borrowing against investments in New York 12, in the heart of Manhattan, that is not an insignificant proposal. Emily, what caught your ear?
I was interested by the discussion of Gaza, the question of whether we should be calling what's happening in Gaza a genocide. There was a pretty unanimous no on that. I wasn't sure where that question was going to go. I think they've all spoken about the issue but haven't necessarily answered that as a yes or no. I was very interested in that and also interested in the military funding to Israel. I was interested that Schlossberg was the only one who specifically singled out Iron Dome funding. That's something that has been discussed between Dan Goldman and Brad Lander that we'll most likely get into in that debate. So I was interested to hear him call that out and thought maybe some of the other candidates would have jumped on that a little more.
I mean, a lot of nuance, Jeff, if I'm being kind. What did you make of that discussion?
That has been, of course, one of the most divisive issues in this race. And the broad sense I got is that even though we've seen candidates like Mamdani win on being very critical of Israel, in this race, these candidates think that they have more to lose by being critical of Israel than to gain. They are instead playing, you know, to the majority saying, you know, I support the idea of Israel. I'm not happy with some of the policies. I mean, basically, everyone is kind of hitting that same tone on that. And I think that's winning in this district. The fact that there is nobody who's really running on that left progressive lane in this race. Everybody is on kind of various levels of like moderate, liberal, progressive, but not super left Dem. And it's interesting in that that's different about this race than in most of the other competitive races in New York City.
And we'll note a couple of things. First of all, Mayor Mamdani often falls back to the fact that he doesn't get a say on these issues. He's not a federal official, whereas these officials, or at least one of them, will will get a say. That being said, Mayor Mamdani, 66% approval in this district, Emily. He has not weighed in. Do you think anything maybe perked his ears up and made him think about weighing in on this race tonight?
I very much was wondering if this was something he'd be watching. He's a voter in this district, and you know, he wouldn't commit to who he'll vote for when you spoke with him recently. I wonder if I would think the conversations around Israel and Gaza are kind of a main driver of his endorsements. He's said that in other races, that is a main driver. So I would think that might make him keep his hands off this
Jeff,
race.
yes or no, does Mamdani weigh in on this race?
No, in fact, you know, tonight the mayor was counter-programming this debate. He was doing his own live stream.
Jeff, no, I kid. I know the mayor does do a weekly show and whatnot.
No, and I think he's staying out. I mean, like we said, you know, nobody is speaking his language when it comes to anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian language.
Yeah. Thank you both. We appreciate it. Thanks for watching PIX on Politics New York 12 debate post-show. Voting is right around the corner. Early voting starts June 13th, runs through June 21st. Primary day, June 23rd. There's the particulars right there. And remember, PIX11 still has 2 more congressional debates. You can watch New York 7th District debate on June 10th and the debate for New York 10 on June 15th. Stay tuned for the premiere of PIX11 up next here on PIX11 Plus. I am Henry Rosoff on behalf of the PIX11 team. Have a great night.